Okay, I'll tell you what I've written down, and then if you have something that I missed, speak up. Ronald Dahl, Hitchhiker, James and the Giant Peach. Anybody else? Or Wilson Rawls? Remember James and the Giant Peach?
Isn't that Roald Dahl?
Right. Oh, excuse me. Yes. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie. I didn't make a bit of sense. I was sitting there thinking about it. Ronald Dahl. I thought, that doesn't sound right in the least. Ronald Dahl, D-A-H-L, the top one. Let me go up one. Thank you. Thank you so much. He's not even on that one. What about Wilson Rawls now? What did Wilson Rawls write? Summer of the Monkeys?
Where the red fern grows.
The red fern grows. Uh-huh. Favorite ones. What about Kipling? What did Kipling write? The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Ricky Tikki Timbo, No Sarimbo, Chari Butchie, something. I can't remember the whole thing. Ricky Tikki Timbo. Kids love that when they get singing it. Ricky Tikki Timbo, No Sarimbo. Something da 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 da. What about Beverly Cleary?
Motorcycle Mouse.
Motorcycle Mouse.
Ramona and Beezus.
Ramona. All the whole Ramona series. Yep. What about Beatrice Potter?
Peter Rabbit.
Oh,
That's Peter Rabbit, yeah.
what, Sarah?
Peter Rabbit.
Peter Rabbit. Yes, everybody knows Peter Rabbit. Yep. What about Mem Fox? She wrote Hattie and the Fox, Bonnie and Ben Ride Again. Kids love Hattie and the Fox. What about Chris Van Allsburg?
Polar Express.
The Polar Express.
Jumanji.
Yes, Jumanji.
The Wretched
There's-
School.
Right. Z was that. The Widow's Broom.
The Sweetest Fig.
The Sweetest Fig. Bear's Dragon. Lots of things. What about Anne Frank?
Diary of a Young Girl.
The Diary of
And Frank.
Anne Frank. The Diary of Anne Frank. What about Wanda Gag? Millions and millions and millions of cats. And Gone is Gone. What about Arlene Mossel? Tiki Tiki Timbo, No Sarimbo, Charbari Ruchi, Perry Pimbo. Kids love that one. Tiki Tiki Timbo. What about Gary Polson, which is spelled wrong? Thank you.
Hatchet.
Hatchet, and he just died. Did you know that? He's 90 years old and he died this week. He used to come out here to our school. He would go to schools and talk to the students. He was wonderful. What about H.A. Ray? Curious George. Right, Laura. Curious George. I know that one. Right. What about Mercer Mayer?
Little
All the little critter series.
All the little critters. All the little critter series. Yep. What about Judy Voice?
Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad
Very
Day.
bad day. Yeah.
Did she also write Bridge to Terabithia, or is that somebody else?
Yes. No, that was her. What about Theodore Geisel? Who is he?
Dr.
Dr.
Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss. And some of his books have been banned. Remember I told you that? They've been censored. What about Harry Allred? The Stupid Books. And Miss Nelson. Oh, Miss Nelson is missing. The teacher doesn't come to school one day because the kids are really bad one day, and so she doesn't come the next day. This lady comes all dressed up in black, and it's not Miss Nelson. Miss Nelson's missing. Where's their teacher? Maybe they better learn to be a better class. Anything else? Is that one? How about Mary Azarian? Snowflake Bentley, a great one for the winter. Snowflake Bentley. What about Kate DiCamillo?
The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane.
Yes. The Tale of Despero.
Yep.
Yep.
Winn-Dixie. Was it Winn-Dixie?
Yeah, Winn-Dixie. Yep.
And the Flora and Ulysses story that now they just turned on to, which I wasn't a big fan of that book, but they just made it into a Disney show, I guess.
I know it. I'm not either. And I don't know if I want to see it or not. Yeah. What about Lloyd Alexander?
He's a fantasy writer, but I can't remember the names of his books.
Lord of the Rings.
The
right?
High King series. There's the Fortune Teller, and there's a whole bunch of them. Yeah. Okay, what about that one I just showed you? I don't know how to say it name for sure. Ingra and Edgar de Alluer. I just showed you that one called Abraham Lincoln. That big book about Abraham Lincoln.
I think they also
What
wrote one
about
on
Keats? Ezra Jaff Keats.
The Snowy Day.
The Snowy Day. There's another one for winter coming up. And the last one, the Brothers Grimm. What did they write?
Just about all our fairy tales.
Every fairy tale. Thorn Rose, Snow White, and the Seven Dwarfs. Only, Jesse, they wrote a gruesome area. They didn't make everything lovey and dovey. They ate each other, and they, yeah, the Brothers Grimm were really grim, the original ones. They were scary. They were man-eaters, yeah. Okay, now, if you go to the next one, you'll see the answers. If you go to the next handout on Canvas, there's some of the ones we talked about. Then if you go to the next one on Canvas, it's just an article called Why You Should Read a Whole Book This Year. I just thought that was really good. We live in an attention deficit, hectic, technology-ridden society. You can fight the tide of chickbait and sound bites to foster learning and mental acuity. They're trying to encourage everybody to read one whole book this year. So I put that there just for the fun of it, because I thought it was a funny article. The next one is that picture I showed you called Growing Up Reading. I love that picture. Where the imagination can go. Under the covers, reading about things in the world. One more I put here just for your fun is 100 favorite children's books. This was a list made by people that wanted to put their 100 favorite children's books. See, tonight you're supposed to bring 15 of your favorite books, but they didn't put it open so you could do that. But next week, find just one or two of your favorite books. What do you remember? And there's a whole list here for humor and for mystery, and see if you remember some of these from your childhood. The next one is a poem, and it's from our book, so we'll look at that when we get to that chapter, but it's called Read, Read, Read a Poem. Why it's so important to read, read, read a poem. And then there's one that we were going to be talking about. It's called the genres of literature. Did you know that all literature, everything that's ever written, is either prose or poetry? Everything. And look this over for next week, because we're going to be talking about all this is prose or poetry. That's all literature is. And our book will talk about that as you read your chapters, and you'll understand why. And then also chapter 2 that we're going to look at is what makes a good book. And that's what our chapter 2 is about, that you'll be reading for next week. We didn't read it for tonight because you couldn't open up the things to see about it. But what makes a good book? In your mind, what makes a good book? And then one here just to help you out, children's literature, how they develop grade 5 through kindergarten up through grade 5. Things that you should be doing with your children, responding to literature from, I guess, grade 6, from the beginning of preschool up through grade 6. So I just put that on as, helpful for you. Okay, let's look at some Newberries, and then we'll go home tonight. The Newberries started sooner than the, they started in 1926. 1926 is when the Newberry started. Remember, it's just for the writing. They don't care about the artwork at all. Let me show you. Let me start with the very first one. They started in 1922, the Newberries did. I don't know if you have seen a lot of these, but let me move things out here so we can see them all. And if you look on the internet, you'll also find a list of what each of them are about. But this is called The Golden Fleece and the Heroes Who Lived Before Achilles. I thought this was very interesting that in 1922 the winner was The Story of Mankind. Good heavens, if that isn't complicated enough, The Story of Mankind. Just 1 second here. I want to find my list. Sitting on top here. I can't find it right now. This was a book. It is extremely difficult to read. You can tell it's 700 pages. It's the classic history of all the ages for all the ages. I thought it was extremely boring. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But also that year in 1923, Dr. Dolittle. Do you remember Dr. Dolittle, The Voyages of Dr. Dolittle? Children love this one, especially through the junior high age. Dreaming what Dr. Dolittle could do. And also The Dark Frigate. No one remembers about these old pirate ships anymore. But those are the winners for just the authors in 1923 and 1924. In 1926, the winner was Shen of the Sea. And it's just Chinese stories for children. And one that is still a favorite today, Smokey the Cowhorse. We can't keep this in the library. We finally just buy it in paperback because if not, somebody steals it. But also that year, I thought this was very interesting. It's called Gay Neck, The Story of a Pigeon. Remember this big long name again? This, however you say that I butchered a minute ago. He won for Caldecott first. Then he decided he'd write his own book. So he wrote about a pigeon called Gay Neck. And also that year, I'm sure you know this one, in 1929, Millions and Millions and Millions of Cats by Wanda Gag. And what surprises me is here's this book about mankind. Look how big it is compared to millions and millions and millions of cats. So it's just amazing how they choose the best story. This committee reads forever. Okay, let me show you the next one. In 1930 then, Hitty. This is a story of a little doll, her first 100 years. And it just talks about making dolls and how important they are. But also that year, in 31, The Cat Who Went to Heaven. And you can tell that we're getting into multicultural. Young Fu of the Upper Yangtze. I've seen that one used a lot. Do you remember Louisa Alcott? In 1934, that won the Newbery called Invincible Louisa, the story of Louisa May Alcott, who wrote Little Women. So it tells you about her. And another one that's a favorite is about horses, of course, called Caddy Woodland. In 1937, the winner was called Roller Skates. They became famous that year. Roller skates came out, and she's going through the streets of New York. And also, this was a great movie called The White Stag. Horse books always are wonderful. And then, in 1939, Thimble Summer, another story of a little girl on a farm, of course, has animals, and her favorite animal, of course, is that pig. And one that became very famous because it was made into a movie is Mr. Popper's Penguins. Do you remember that one? Mr. Popper is in for a particularly pleasant surprise. So those were the ones in the 30s. Let me show you the 40s, see if you remember those. I'll bet some of these you do, like in 41 it was called Call It Courage. And Johnny Tremaine, who you remember that? Great movie. Kids love Johnny Tremaine. The girls love this one called The 100 Dresses, the 100 Dresses, and what you would do with 100 dresses. And Rabbit Hill. Lois Lindsay came out with The Strawberry Girl. And Miss Hickory came out, dolls made out of, tree branches, whatever you want to make out of them. And the most popular one of all of them was Misty, anything to do with animals and horses. And one that I didn't like at all was called The 21 Balloons. And that one in 1948. Okay, let me show you these and see if these sound familiar to you. Let me slide these over. We'll look at the 50s. Let's start with, let's see, it starts over here, starts over here. In 1950, the winner was The Door in the Wall. Watch for that name, Margarita de Angeli. That was, she wrote many, many books, The Door in the Wall. And in Amos Fortune in 1951. I thought this was interesting. To me, this is a textbook. It's called America Before Columbus. And it was the winner in 1952. But look, it looks like a textbook. It's a hardbound, but it's a great history book to get a different perspective on what America was like before Columbus came. In 53, I'll bet you remember Charlotte's Web. Also that year, the Moccasin Trail and the Secret of the Andes, looking where other people live. Great for history to give them an idea of what went on before they were here. This one's called And Now Miguel. Let me tell you about that one. It won the medal in 1954. This little boy had dreamed of visiting the mountains when he was little. It's called the Santa de Cristo Mountains. This summer, he was going to work very hard and hope that his father and grandfather would let him go up in the mountains and help tend the sheep. He also believed that if he prayed hard enough, that he would be granted this wish. His older brother said, well, I guess I can take Miguel. Miguel is miserable, though, and confesses to his brother what he prayed for. His brother explains that he should pray for something that is more real than going up in the mountains. He should be happy, and it's all about prayer, which I thought was very interesting because, you don't usually write a book about prayer, but this little boy just simply prayed that he'd go to the mountains. So the theme of the whole story is the brothers resolved to allow God to work freely for the rest of their lives and not bother God with petty requests. So they quit praying. I thought this is a weird thing to be writing about just because he wanted to go up in the mountains. But it was made into a movie even. Just made into a movie. And then I bet you've heard this one. This is called The Wheel on the School by De Jong, and the pictures are by Maurice Sendak. That was the winner in 55. Another one I bet you remember is by De Jong again and Maurice Sendak. You'll see those names a lot. And this is The House of 60 Fathers. Very good to study the Chinese culture. The Miracle on Maple Hill, all about getting sugar maple back east in New York. And Old Yellow, do you remember Old Yellow? 1957 was a winner. 1958, The Horse Catcher. And I'm sure you bet in 1958, Rifles for Wadey. In 59, by De Jong and Sandeck again, Along Came a Dog. And then I thought this one was very interesting that in 1959, the winner was The Family Under the Bridge. This was written because there's a lady in Salt Lake that decided people weren't coming to school. Where were these children? Where were these children that she knew? She'd see them in the streets, but where were they? Found out they were homeless, living under the bridges in Salt Lake and other places. And she put an idea out there, we should look under the bridges and find the children. Because of her, they started these buses or schools to go around and find these children that didn't come because they had no clothing or didn't know what to do or followed the crops. So it was she didn't write the book, she just gave the idea, and the lady that wrote it was Natalie Savage Carlson. But look for the family under the bridge and see about the people that should be in your classes that aren't. So those are just some of the winners and some of the honor books. And they have great use in our classes, if we take time to look at them. Now on Canvas, let me show you what I put so that I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Let me go to right here. The Art of Remembering Everything You Read. I put an article up. Let me get it back so you can see it now. The Art of Remembering Everything You Read. How to encode over 200 books a year. I put that there just to make you laugh. But I also put up Make Way for Ducklings, all those ideas. And I also put up here The Little Island, tells all the ideas to use that one. And I put up A Tree is Nice, how to use all those ideas. But then I also put the list here. Here's the Caldecott winners from the present day, clear back to the very first one. If you look on the internet under Distinguished American Picture Books for Children, you'll find this list. And it tells the winners and all the honor books. And then the next one is for the Newberries. Oh, no, this is the one where I gave you a little blurb about them. Like, here's the animals of the Bible, and I wrote something about it so you'd have, in case you didn't remember all that. Then I put the Newbery winners, so you can look at those. This is what SUU wanted you to do, so do not worry about this. This is their lesson plan unit. This is what they wanted you to do. You are already teachers. You do not need to know lesson plans. You simply need to write on Canvas, this is how I use literature in my class, or this is how I have used a book or something. I don't need a lesson plan. I know you already know how. And then there's an example again if you want to use that for your book list, however you want to keep your book list. Now, do you feel overwhelmed? Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what you think. Questions, concerns before we end?
I have a question.
Yes, yes.
So when we're presenting the Caldecott Newbery Awards, are we doing it for the entire decade or are we just picking some?
Just pick some. Just pick some.
Okay.
You get about 10 to 15 minutes, no more than 15. But it doesn't Newbery and Caldecott, it'd be something from that time period. Or if there's a book you really want to tell us about it. We want to know what your favorites are too.
Do you want us to have the physical book or just tell you about it?
You don't have to. You can tell us about it.
Okay.
We can go on the internet and look them up because you can find all of these on the internet now. So
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that so that
I want you to kind of just review it just like I did. This is kind of about a war. This is about the boy going at the one about prayer. So we have an idea what it's in. That makes sense to everybody? The most important thing you're going to do is keep a list of the books you're interested in. Now, maybe tonight I only presented out of all those books, 2 of them that really amount to you. But if 2 of them amount to you, that's worth it. I could use these too. I'd love to use millions of cats or something. You're going to visit a library if you want to, just to see what's available in your area. Because you can't send somebody to the library if you don't know where they're at. Questions now? Concerns? If not, then we're through for the evening. Now it's your time to write on Canvas about what you learned tonight or your thoughts and respond to somebody, or if you want to. You don't have to now, but you have time now if you want to. Okay, then good night. I'm so glad you're in class. Now we're going to take time to talk about books. Read and talk, and that's all we're going to do is read, talk, and write down the ones we like. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise.
Anybody have a question? I heard somebody speak up. I'm here if you have a question.